What's good, real estate family, and welcome to my channel. If you already follow me, you already know I talk about real estate, wholesaling real estate in particular. We're gonna get into some real estate, some lifestyle, some tactics that'll make you money in real estate. And I talk about it more so as well, you don't have to put a lot of money into it to start real estate and start making a lot of money in real estate. So let's get into it. I wanted to talk about wholesaling in 2024. There's a lot of adjustments that will be happening in 2024 when it comes to wholesaling real estate. Real estate in general is evolving. A lot is really changing. If you've seen or caught up with the news lately, you'll see that a lot of real estate brokerages are now being sued for basically taking too much from the buyers, getting paid for their commissions. So that's one thing. There's now a lot of going on with creative financing. Wholesaling is basically where you just find a seller, get it under contract, sell it to your end buyer, and then you make the profit in between. And it's usually a 15 to 30, sometimes 45-day process. It's really fast. With creative financing, there's a lot more exits and opportunities, and people are realizing that and they're taking that route. And wholesalers will be important for you to add that to your tool belt. There are plenty of wholesale deals around, but you can't just put yourself in the box. Now, if you're starting and you're just trying to get your first deal, you definitely want to just focus on one thing. And so if you're trying to close your first wholesale deal, scratch what I'm talking about with creative financing, novations, different forms. You can pick up little things about it because I'll be dropping information about how different creative financing and solutions work for your seller. But if you're looking to wholesale and make a good chunk of money at one time quickly, wholesaling is ultimately the first and top way to go. I really feel like, and I feel like it's actually factual and truthful that you have to understand what a real estate deal is in the first place. So you can't just get into real estate and investing and throw money at it and hope it sticks or just create a deal out of thin air. You really have to know the essentials and the foundation of a true deal. And that's where a lot of people get messed up. Like the situation, let's say with DJ Envy and Caesar Pena, if you're familiar with that at all, and where a lot of people were taken for millions of dollars, and DJ Envy and this guy Caesar Pena were doing real estate seminars. They have programs. You can invest with them to get a return on your money. And so they had a lot going on, and DJ Envy has a very big name. So, with that being said, he's able to broadcast, hey, we have deals that you as a person can buy, you can invest, you have a good sum of money, and we'll give you a return on your money. So all that sounds great coming from a big celebrity, a known name, and people would give money. There were business people, there were real estate people, and there were people who were just regular civilians who may have just came into some money and they were looking to make their money grow. They don't know about wealth, but they came into money and they wanted to grow. So with them not knowing what a deal actually is, or even if someone did know what a deal actually is, there are definitely some ins and outs of real estate you want to know before you start getting into the investing part. Now, when it comes to wholesaling, like I said, the bottom line is you're going to know what a deal is from the bottom up. So if somebody's saying, hey, give me $200,000, we'll put it into this building, I'm going to give you $400,000 back. To someone who might have just came into some money or has some money, they're sound like, well, that sounds like a great deal. How long will it take? Just 6 months to 12 months. And then you're like, yeah, okay, sure, I'll definitely do that. But what does the deal actually entail? So when you're getting a wholesale deal under contract, you are finding out all the things that need to be done. So you're finding out what the comps are. That means the comparable homes to the property you're putting under contract. You're finding out what are rehab costs, what are the time frame for these things to happen. And when you put a deal under contract, when you put that number on the line for a contract, we're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars for someone to receive. That's very important and substantial in someone's life. So you have to know the exact number you're going to put on that contract, or it's going to be a problem down the line where it could result in a lawsuit, or it could result in you just having bad relationships with different people and you start doubting yourself. So it's just a whole thing that you want to know what wholesaling is. So my channel, I bring lots of pointers to that. Another thing, wholesaling. When I first started wholesaling, I didn't really understand basically where to get money from or how to, you know, make a deal happen when I literally didn't have any money. There are plenty more options now where you can get someone to give you a down payment on the earnest money. So if when you go into contract and you need to solidify a contract, or even when you're buying a house regularly, you have to put down an earnest money deposit. So that might be, it's usually 1 to 3% of the actual purchase price. So it's 1%. So if it's $100,000 deal, you might have to put down $1,000 earnest money deposit. That doesn't always get a requirement, usually when it's wholesaling, because it's usually people who are off market and distressed. But if you do have to put down earnest money, you can now, there are people, including myself and partners I work with, who will fund the earnest money for you, and they will be alongside you on the contract for closing date. So we put down the $1,000. You make your deal with your end buyer. So if you, let's say you were going to make $10,000 on this deal, we put down the $1,000, and on closing day, we would expect back maybe between 1,500 to 2,000 back to us. So we made a return on our money. You closed your wholesale deal. You didn't use any money, and everybody's happy. So that wasn't really a big option for me about 5 years ago when I first started wholesaling. Now it's moving so fast. You have to sometimes put down earnest money to lock down a wholesale deal, make a seller feel confident that you are going to buy from them and close the deal. Now, everyone makes money in the transaction, so everybody's happy. When you double close a wholesale transaction, what happens is most times when you double close, you don't want your end buyer to see how much money you're making. You don't want the seller to see how much money you're making, as opposed to traditional way when you're basically assigning the contract to an end buyer. Assigning means the seller will be able to see your fee, the buyer will be able to see your fee. So typically when I double close, I do that a lot, because if I make over $10,000 on a deal, $8 to $10,000, I really don't even want the seller or the end buyer to really know what I'm making on the deal. Sometimes it causes friction. A lot of times the buyers will say, I don't care how much you're making. So what do we got to do to close the deal? Just let me know. Or what's your number? How much are you making? You might not want to disclose that. Sometimes it makes the deal go ugly. It makes it go bad. The buyer might say he's making too much money and I have to work this hard to make I'm not doing the deal. Or the seller, we get to the closing table and they're looking over the pre-closing paperwork and they see in the HUD statement, why is this guy making $15,000? He told me blase, blase, blah. Or sometimes leaves a bad taste in people's mouth. It's just better to eliminate that. We sometimes use what they call as transactional funding. So transactional funding means, let's do an example here again. This is going to be actual money that is put down for the property on your behalf. So you're literally purchasing the property. It is held in your name for a very short amount of time, usually about 30 minutes to an hour, maybe 2 hours. And in that time, you own the property and you are selling it over to the end buyer. So that is a double close. You're buying from the seller, signing the paperwork in one room, and then you're going over to the next room to sign with the end buyer, and your fee comes out on that end. So transactional funding happens where somebody who has private money, somebody might have private money, or a single person, and they will fund the deal. So if you have a home that will close, let's say it's going to be for, once again, $100,000, just to make numbers easy. Let's say you're buying a property for 100,000 and you're going to sell it over here for 120,000. So you'd use transactional funding. So with transactional funding, the transactional funding company will put down $100,000 for you. They will take the money from their bank, put it in escrow for you as a buyer, as a partner. The money will then be transferred to the seller. So $100,000, boom, paid to the seller. Now you own the property while you guys are at the closing table. So the money's hanging up there in escrow. You haven't touched any money. You don't get a bag of cash that you're holding and whatnot. And a transactional funding company will usually charge between 1% and 2%. So once again, 1% of 100,000 is $1,000. So they would charge you probably about $1,000, maybe $2,000 to transact this deal. So they buy the property for you. It's in your name. The title company, who make sure they're an investor friendly company. So what happens with that is they know that you are double closing. You're doing what they call also a back-to-back they're doing a back-to-back transaction. So they know that you bought that deal with the money that's held up there in escrow, and now you're going to sell the property, the property to your end buyer, and make the $120,000, but that $2,000 is still going to go to the transactional funding company for their fee. So everything's done at the attorney's closing table. The seller gets their money, end buyer gets their property, transactional funding will get their fee, and you will get your fee that you split in the middle. So if it was $120,000, you minus the 2,000, the 1,000, and you make 18,000, $19,000. Isn't that a beautiful thing? Just you just listen to that. You came to the closing table. You don't have any money. You might come up there with lint in your pockets, but you got that pen and you got that contract, you got that paper. You get to go to a legal attorney office, a title company, close a whole real estate deal. Didn't have any money, had somebody gave you $100,000, and you made your fee. Everyone's paid. On to the next deal. Nonetheless, that's not going to be a common thing like it used to be the past 5 years. That's what most of my deals were. I hardly ever put earnest money down on any of my deals. I put earnest money down on maybe one or two out of dozens and dozens of deals. So, but now sellers are getting savvy. They know what type of market it is, and they feel like they have some poker chips, and they're like, well, I'll just wait for the next bigger offer. So, with that being said, if you come at them like, hey, Mr. Seller, I can definitely get this house closed for you in 14 days. I'll buy it for 100,000. I'm gonna put down 2,000 earnest money just so you know I'm serious. That's gonna sway your sellers a lot more. They're gonna say, this guy's ready. He really has money. He's ready to go. He wants to buy it right now. So that's going to help you greatly, especially if you're dealing with on market deals, difficult sellers, or you're battling all the competition around you. Wholesaling has grown so much. Everyone's on YouTube watching videos like this trying to figure out how to wholesale. There might be a lot of competition in your city. There might be big companies are starting to buy houses at large mass value so they can put rental properties up. So you're battling against corporations, you're battling against other wholesalers, you're battling against numerous things, but stay ahead of that. You have someone that can transactional fund your double close, and you have someone that can lend you earnest money and you pay them back, take a little hit on your fee. You're still making money. So it's just that's wholesaling in 2024. Staying above the competition, making sure you're closing, make sure you have a solid resource database. You have someone for earnest money, you have someone for transactional funding, you have someone with extra cash buyers, you have a good title company. You need to lock those four things in as soon as possible. And things change, but those four things need to be intact. Because once you're getting these leads in, you're getting your leads in, you finally have a seller, you don't scramble and say, damn, what do I do now? The security and the confidence you have when you're talking to sellers and you have basically people with money in your back pocket willing to put the money down, willing to wait till you can close to pay them back, you can't lose. So that makes wholesaling just that much better. And definitely in 2024, you have to keep it up.